Okay, let's look at this. We're looking at the communication cycle here. Here we have an example of the sender, the receiver, the message he's making, and the feedback. This is the cycle. It's a constant cycle going around and around. And these names change, like the sender here. Eventually, once he gets the message across to the receiver, then the receiver now becomes the sender back to the original sender, who then in turn becomes the receiver. But looking at this, let's go ahead and look at some of the components of what makes a message, how we communicate. What is this? This is the verbal, paraverbal, and nonverbal. Now, obviously, these are the verbals, the sounds that come out of our mouth, the tone that we make, how we say it, how soft, how loud, the expression, the things that we don't see in terms of the way we behave. And we're going to discuss these later, but look at the percentage. The large majority of the communication is through nonverbal, followed by the paraverbal, and finally, actual words themselves. Now, look at this. This is, here's the Mickey's interpretation. Look at this expression, Mickey Mouse's. In the interpretation, we see what your interpretation is, what the other person's interpretation is, and what they perceive. See these crossovers here, how these crossover, and this fuzziness that we think we know in this particular area is what is coming across as the message and the feedback. And this all serves to create the complete knowledge that we receive from the situation. Now, viewing this, let's go and see what else we could be talking about, how this really impacts us in terms of the culture and the communication. You see how this is going around and around and constantly serving emotional intelligence, cultural adjustments, the perception of what we say, the bumps, the problems we have in the culture, and the values and the behaviors that constantly goes with this particular system of communication. So, that being said, if you can really understand the need for communication and the cycle that it goes into, then perhaps we can then in turn understand better what's happening in the communication cycle. Share the ideas, but is it for real?